Right over here, Chief. Do a mic check for me. You good? Go ahead and say something like Ken is awesome or something so we can test the microphone.
Good morning.
Chief Wilson, we're just honored to have you with us today. We count you as a national treasure. As a chief in the U.S. Navy, we're honored and thankful to have you with us today. And I'm just going to sit up here to be pretty, and we want you to tell your story, and you have all the time you would like.
Thank you.
Thank you. Everybody welcome Chief Wilson.
Well, let us go back about 80 years. Now, this was a time of this country's, of the ending of the Great Depression, as you heard about or read about. It was also the time of my completion of school. After this school, I particularly looked for a job to help my parents out. No jobs were to be found. My attention turned to the military. Didn't like the Army. So, I picked the Navy, thinking at the same time that I would have a place to sleep every night. I didn't particularly like the Army foxholes. I would get 3 meals a day. I wouldn't get rich, not at $21 a month, no. That's all they were paying. Anyway, we'll go forward. Went into the Navy. 12 months boot camp, they call it. Our first ship that was assigned to was in Cuba. Anchored in the bay, Guantanamo Bay. I hitched a ride to Cuba on the ship. An ammunition ship that carried ammunition for the entire fleet, from 16-inch shells down to 30 caliber bullets for rifle and everything in between. My ship, I traveled aboard. 2 days later, it went up the west coast of Florida to this town of Panama City, which was visited last fall by the Hurricane Florence, the same town. Spending 2 days there for the purpose of people who had never seen a ship to go aboard. A courtesy visit is what they were called. After 2 days, on the way again, went to Gulfport, Mississippi, for the same purpose. After 2 days, on the way again, this time to the Panama Canal. Through the canal, up the west coast of Panama, Central America, and Mexico, into San Diego, the home port of my ship, which was a destroyer, of course, and they were to take. To give you an example or information about a destroyer, it's 3 by 315 feet long, about the length of a football field. It was 36 feet wide and have a speed of about 50 miles an hour, depending on the ocean, of course. The storm was built for escort duty. Escort in wartime, they escort bigger ships, carriers, battleships, cruisers, because they were also equipped to find enemy submarines as well as aircraft. That was the purpose of the destroyer. Okay. Got a little bit of the history of the ship itself, of course. At this particular time, this is the year 1939, ship being based, of course, as I said, the home port was San Diego, California. Why was it on the East Coast? Because President Roosevelt wanted the whole fleet on the East Coast. He wanted to view it, which he did. And it was after his viewing of the fleet in the Caribbean. The ship went to, recently went to Guantanamo, Cuba to get to refuel. Now, at this particular time, Japan. Now let me tell you also, at this particular time also, our country was not in war, no. But the war was raging in Europe. Adolf Hitler and his Nazi legions had already invaded Austria, Hungary, Albania, Czechoslovakia, the Sudets, and now he had his eyes set on the country of Poland. Of course, as I told you, we were not in the war. However, Pentagon, Americans, of course, Congress, noticed Japan, so to speak, ruffling his feathers. Japan had a plan. This came out much later, of course, to be the dominating nation over the Far East, as we call it, such as China, the islands of Sumatra, Java, Borneo, southern Philippines. Japan's idea, of course, through their so-called Congress, as we call it, they call it the Diet, D-I-E-T. Here's a name for that moving party at that time in Japan. Headed by a man. His name, Hideki Tojo. So it's egging Japan on, so to speak, in their quest for what they planned to do, which was they kept it a secret. Japan at that time had another plan to cover up that first plan. That plan, they were saying they need to improve that country, build an economy up. But, as you know, Japan being an island nation needed raw materials, which they did not have. They didn't have any oil, and no rubber, no minerals of any kind to accomplish their goals. But the Japanese Congress says we know where we can get them. And we'll try to get those things by diplomatic means, if possible. Now let me back up a little bit to tell you Japan in 1937 invaded China just for one purpose: to keep China under that thumb of the future plans that Japan had. They were planning to do. They didn't want any interference from China. That was our reason for the invasion. All right, let's drop Japan just for a moment and go back to the United States, Congress, and the Pentagon. Realizing that Japan, they were talking and acting and so forth, decided to boost up the naval power at Pearl Harbor. This was late 1939. They did so by ordering 3 aircraft carriers, 8 battleships, 2 heavy cruisers, 4 light cruisers, and 36 destroyers were ordered to Pearl Harbor. And Pearl Harbor to be their base. All right, go back to Japan. Still talking about the things they needed. Their second plan, I'm still talking about the economy and so forth, so far as the nation's concerned. They said, well, as I told you, we'll get these things we need by diplomatic means. If not, we'll take them by force, which meant invasion. But this is at first. We have a big obstacle in our path, which is a large fleet of ships based at Pearl Harbor. We will have to do away with it. Okay, time goes on. 1940. In 1941, in late November of the year 1941, from Yokosuka Naval Base on the northeast coast of Japan, 6 aircraft carriers left, 2 light cruisers in their group, and 6 destroyers. They left Yokosuka on the northeast coast. This northeast coast, had they pursued this course, would have taken them to the Aleutian Islands off the coast of Alaska. That wasn't their destination. All right. During this group of ships, cruise, so to speak, there also appeared before President Roosevelt in the Oval Office 3 Japanese on 3 different occasions. One, the ambassador to the United States from Japan. The other 2, I don't recall their names. There was 3 of them, as I told you, on 3 different occasions. That was while this group of ships was in the North Pacific Ocean on their cruise. This ship, this group, would make a strange horseshoe shape cruise, a large horseshoe shape, with the southern end of that horseshoe pointed directly at the island of Oahu, the northernmost island of the Hawaiian chain. I told you that they left in late November will advance to December the 7th, 1941. I must first tell you the reason for that so-called peculiar cruise the ships made. To keep from being seen by anybody, any nation, any person, and they were. It was all a sneak plan for what they were going to do. As I started to tell you, December 7th, which was Sunday morning, it's 7:30 on the north coast of the island of Oahu. 2 army corporals were manning and operating a portable radar unit. The radar had just come out. New radar at that time had a range of 100 miles, much more now. On that radar screen, they saw blips. They don't call them planes, ships, whatever by name. There's always blips on the screen in wartime. But this wasn't wartime as yet. But they saw several blips on that screen. They reported it to their headquarters. Their headquarters passed it off, knowing that Sunday morning there was a flight of 7 B-17 bombers coming to Hickam Field. I want to stop and tell you right now, so far as Pearl Harbor is concerned on the island of Oahu, there was more military things, places. Fort Ruger, Fort Shafter, Fort Kamehameha, Schofield Barracks, Army Airfields. It was no Air Force at that time. They called it Army Air Corps. Whittlesfield, Bellisfield, and Hickam Field. Hickam Field was right there beside Pearl Harbor, all Army, of course. And those B-17 bombers was coming into Hickam Field to refuel for the purpose of these planes. They were on their way to the Philippines, to be stationed as a base in the Philippines. I think I lost my piece.
Oh. Would you like some water?
Oh, fine. So, the headquarters was thinking about it. Of course, it wasn't the B-17 bombers. The blips they saw on that screen was 141 Japanese planes, about 100 miles away, coming to the island of Oahu and Pearl Harbor. Headquarters, thinking that it was the bombers, told the corporals to secure their unit and for them to return to their base, it being Sunday. All right. On myself that morning, being Sunday morning, as I said, at 7:30. Corporals picked up the flight of planes. This was about 20 minutes later. I didn't tell you to start with, of course I haven't told you. But there's 5 hours difference between Hawaii time in the East Coast. 7:30 there. Time, it would have been 12:30 here. 12:30 p.m. I came up from the mess hall. What do you call it? Breakfast. Civilian life. Some of you have probably heard. But, words, civilian life, and Navy life are entirely different. In Navy fields, it is always child. See, it's joke. Regardless of what time of day it is child. So this one I was. That pool came right outside, which was it down. The first thing I saw, hangers on $4, blazing, planes parked outside on fire. Those 141 planes, Japanese, had arrived. Now let me tell you also, they were expected to find 3 United States aircraft carriers anchored on port in Pearl Harbor. They were there. Lexington carrier was down in Justin Island on some type of maneuver with 2 destroyers. The Saratoga was on this return trip to Pearl Harbor from Wake Island. It had to deliver a detachment of Marines to be based there on Wake. The Enterprise, it had left Bremerton, Washington, Navy Yard, and on its way down the West Coast to San Diego, where it would stay for a couple of days and then return to Pearl Harbor. So, no carriers were in. Japanese were disillusioned, no doubt. Anyway, first group of planes, as I say, bombed the hangars, planes, airstrips, put bomb craters in all the airstrips, the Army and Navy, to keep any American planes from landing or taking off. Okay, this first raid, and during the first raid, I was in the field, which is beside Pearl Harbor, on the airfield. There was a 2-story building. It was a barracks building. It was built close to a strip. Afterwards, they assumed that the Japanese pilots thought it was a hangar, aircraft hangar, and bombed it. 183 men lost their lives in that barracks. This particular first raid lasted exactly 8 minutes. Now, let me go back a little bit and tell you something else. Those 6 aircraft carriers, those 2 cruisers, those 6 destroyers never came to the Hawaiian Islands. They stopped 200 miles away. Airplanes, the first raid came from Seville, the carrier said 6 aircraft carriers. They would fly 200 miles to Pearl Harbor and the Island of Oahu, drop their bombs, their torpedoes, and immediately return to their ship. So that meant they had to fly 400 miles, and that's the limit of their fuel at that time. That's all the fuel they carried. 2 of their planes didn't get back. One of them few. Crashed and burned on the beach of Waikiki. The other plane was shot down by Marines using rockets. The plane was low enough and shot it down. But it crashed in a pineapple field. Okay. First rain. Aircraft hangs burning, so forth. But now, just not today. All of this 141 come for a while and scattered all over the island to the other bases, doing the same thing. 6 minutes later, after these planes left, second wave came. This time, from the other 3 carriers, 167 planes. Well, the planes, seeing those ships larger than a battleship, of course, proceeded to work on them. Torpedoes, bombs, doing the same thing did the first wave. Dropped their bombs, their parked torpedoes, and head back to their carrier before they ran out of fuel. Battleships, of course, this map will show you exactly where every ship was on the morning, 7th of December 1941, where they were at that particular time, each ship, and by name. So the second group started to work known, as I told you, the battleships. And it seemed that the battleship Arizona, we would call it that too, was beating all of them. Because today, as you know, it is a memorial. The Arizona was damaged so bad that they decided it couldn't be repaired or agreed. They removed all most of the structure. The Japanese had destroyed the ship, the guns, everything. And of course, it was sitting on the bottom of the lane. Now, let me tell you this. Pearl Harbor is a very shallow harbor. That no place in the harbor was it deeper than 45 feet. It was a dredge that used to work year round, keeping it dredged out so ships could go and come in. So, Arizona sitting on the bottom. No superstructure. As I said, everything was removed. Now, they built a memorial over it, of course. If you go to the memorial, you can just see, look down, you'll see the hull of the Arizona, just a little more. Other planes, of course, Arizona lined up with the rest of the battleships as over against Fort Island, which they call the battleship board, battleship road. I don't know beside the islands where the battleships were moored. So it seemed to be easy picking for those Japanese pilots. Well, the bombs and the torpedoes. The West Virginia, the Tennessee, the Maryland. They were outside ships, so to speak, more two abreast, two probably. They were all sitting on the bottom, with the Japanese got through them. But, as I told you before, it was over 40 feet deep. So, the majority of the ship is still above water. The bomb damage and whatever Now, I can go back and tell you. But you probably don't, well, you're not here. That makes part of it. All right, a tally. At the end of the race of those groups, 18 ships were either sunk or badly damaged. 2 of the other ships capsized and rolled over on the side. And I will tell you also that within 3 months, those battleships that were just sitting on the bottom, 4 of them left Pearl Harbor, headed for the South Pacific where the action was taking place. They were repaired by the Navy on their class. Okay, besides the ship, 369 planes was lost. That's Army and Navy both. Heard the bad part. 2,188 men lost their lives. 1,171 were injured. There beside Pearl Harbor was 2 tank farms. Tank farms as well. Few stored aviation ship. In those 2 tank farms was 297 million gallons of fuel. But the aviation and ship, which the Japanese did not even bother. Because they had the idea, if you deal away with the planes, you wouldn't need the fuel stored. So it's just fun. All right, during the second wave, my ship finally managed to get underway. It was attacked by 2 Japanese dive bombers. Their bombs missed the ships. One threw down to China, over the ocean, open ocean. Their intention was to bomb the ship, block it, the whole China. But both the planes, the bombs missed the ship. We go outside. Nothing inside, but clear ocean. The damage had been done in Pearl Harbor and the rest of the places. That's about as much as I could really tell you so far as that attack on Pearl Harbor is concerned. It was really a sneak attack. No one knew it was coming whatsoever. And to tell you more plainly, at that time, peacetime being as it was, ships in Pearl Harbor, half of their crew was granted weekend leave. If they were in port the next weekend, the other half was granted liberty. Half of all the ship's crews was ashore. They hardly had enough to even get the ships on the lake. Anyway, only a few destroyers could get out that morning. So I had this to you. And as I told you before, this map here, it shows you the location at that particular time of every ship, where it's located. The name of the ship is on the map also. Folks, that's about the best I can do as far as the tactical program. Now, I will tell you also, that this is a tactical program, so far as Japanese is concerned. The only thing that ever got close to it was those Japanese planes to the islands I'm talking about. Because our engagement was almost 2,000 miles farther south. The South Pacific Ocean down below the equator. The Japanese, in the preceding years, had built bases on some of those islands, Solomon Islands, Caroline Islands. They had built bases without the knowledge of other nations. They had built airfields. That's where all the fighting was. We went left Pearl Harbor, not to return it again for over 2.5 years. Tom was down in the South Pacific Ocean. My ship's first engagement was down in the Coral Sea. This is located north of New Guinea, between New Guinea and the Solomon Islands. As far as the rest of my engagements, there were 9 more after Pearl Harbor at different times. Some of them against enemy submarines, some of them against aircraft. My first ship, I went up through the ranks and was transferred after engagement. But our ship was in off the coast of Siberia, in the Bering Sea. We were set up there to block the Japanese force attempting to reinforce the islands. The 2 western outpost islands and the Aleutian chain pistol, and acting the Japanese had already settled on. We were set up to block the invasion of future Japanese ships trying to reinforce them. And after that engagement, the Irish and Alaska, I left that ship back to the East Coast, back to school. This is what was going on in 1943. Then, since that, San Francisco to a new ship. Which on that ship, it was the second ship I was on. It was named for North Carolina. From Newbern, last name, Whitehurst. That was my last ship. And since Whitehurst was killed on the heavy cruiser Astoria, that was sunk in Cold Gulf of Solomon Islands. In the early part of the war, this destroyer was named for him. My ship, the last ship, was credited with sinking 2 Japanese submarines and the destruction of 4 Japanese planes. And of course, my last ship, so he hit themselves with a Japanese suicide plane. They call it the kamikaze corps. Incidentally, that power was 17 years old on that plane. Folks, that's about all I can remember to tell you, because now, as it stands this day and time, destroyers carried torpedoes back at that particular time during the war and used them. Well, now something else has taken that place. Guided missiles. In other words, it made certain ships coming to appears obsolete. The only thing now, as far as naval force is concerned, carrying to appears the submarines. Brother White doesn't, I have to say, really.
Let me ask you a question, Chief. When you entered the Navy, you entered as an E1 and you got out as an E7 Chief Torpedoman's Mate.
Right.
Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah. And there was no Senior Chief or Master Chief at that time.
At that time, there's two more added to it later.
Right, yes, okay. So you attained the highest rank and enlisted.
At that time, it's the same, that would have been the same thing as the first sergeant in the Army and Marines. E7, pay grade. But now they've added, as he said, they've added two more. It would be a senior chief and a master chief would be what would be called. Now, this day and time.
You're also being quite modest. Weren't you also involved in the Battle of Midway? Were you not in Midway? Didn't you participate?
At the time Midway, the Battle of Midway was going on. That was the time that I was, after this engagement on Siberia, the ship was at Anchorage, Alaska. And that's where I left the ship. And it was at this time that the Battle of Midway was taking place. I was transferred and sent to the East Coast back to school.
So you were on a total of how many ships?
Just two ships. The first ship was 3.5 years.
And that was the what?
That was the Dale, USS Dale.
USS Dale.
Yeah.
And the second one
USS Whitehurst.
was the Whitehurst.
Yeah.
Okay. And you stayed in the Navy a total of how long?
7 years and 3 months, I believe.
Anyone who's ever been in the military, he made E7 in 7 years.
Yeah. I had a reason for getting out.
Tell them the reason, Chief.
I had gotten married during the war. I even told most of the captains for it about it. He didn't quit. I was married. He told me, he said, "Was your rate? The type rate you got? You'll be lucky to get 2 years surgery down the whole 20. I quit. I decided to quit, really. That was the main reason. And I will tell you something else, though. Of course, I know the war was almost over when I came out. Because when I was on the way back, San Francisco, to Pearl Harbor, where my ship went to be repaired. And that's when I was just, I left the ship. With orders to report to the sea station in Northern Virginia. The first atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima. I was on the way. Maybe you heard about it. It was the leading thing that brought Japan to its knees, so to speak. The city of Hiroshima. 300,000 people. And one atomic bomb wiped the city clean. The only thing still standing in Hiroshima today from that bomb. There's 2 cement columns which didn't fall down. Even that struck. 3 days later, the second bomb was dropped from the city of Nagasaki. That's what brought Japan to its knees. That's what brought them to the deck of the USS Missouri, anchored in Tokyo Bay, to sign the surrender document. in this city in 1945. No, I wasn't until Joe Bay met the Simon. Was we were all over the southern invasion of the invasion of that southern island of Japan and all was the name of it. That was the last major conflict, really, so far as the United States and Japan was concerned.
Do you mind if I open the floor for questions for you? Is that fine?
Anything you want to ask, I'll try to answer.
Anyone have a, yes?
What were you going to school for?
What were you going to school for?
Grade and torpedo, advanced torpedo school.
Advanced torpedoman school. Anyone else?
That's at Newport, Rhode Island. Yeah.
Happy?
Well, when the torpedoes started coming in and the bombing, and you said you were in the mess hall, and as soon as you realized there was something going on, what did you actually do?
Okay, so you had just left the mess hall when the attack began, is that right?
How did I look at? There's no stars in the name, but it always matters.
So what did you do once you realized did they sound general quarters, GQ, and then what did you do?
Was totally decided to quarters. Ships tied side by side to our fire buildings. I'm talking about that big buildings.
Yes, sir.
Superstructure and everything else over. Ships no guns were fired. They didn't have, you got to be an open ocean, plenty of room. If you're going to fire your guns, you can't do it. It's too, you're tied side by side. You'll see this on this thing here, these small things on destroyers, how close they are together on that map there, you'll see them. And as I told you before, active crew was on the beach.
Was on Liberty, yeah.
They weren't on the ship.
So you just helped it get underway to get out of the harbor.
We tried to get out of the harbor so you could use them.
Right.
But, as I told you before too, there was nothing outside to use it on. There's no ships. That's what they expected to find. Because as I said before, the only thing that ever got to the Hawaiian Islands was the planes, Japanese planes. And that's just a big one.
Anybody else? Yes, sir.
How old is Mr. Wilson?
He wants to know how old you were when you were born. No, he wants to know how old you are, Chief Wilson.
99 years and 10 months. If I make it 2 more months, it'll be 100.
September the 11th is his 100th birthday. Julian, did you have a question?
When did you start the Navy?
When did he join the Navy? You want to know how old he was when he joined the Navy?
18.
He was 18 when he joined the Navy.
I was 22 at the time of Pearl Harbor.
Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell us how many men are still entombed in the Arizona?
They want to know if you know how many men are still in the belly of the Arizona.
Oh, I failed to tell you. I'm sorry about that. I told you, 2,188. Really. That was the total tally. 1,104 men are still aboard the Arizona.
How many, sir?
Why are they aboard? You want to know? The parents of those men were notified to ask if they wanted their remains returned to the United States. So they returned funeral, the return cemetery, or any kind of cemetery. Or just what did you relatives dissolved. The relatives of the men said they served with their buddies, their comrades, leave them there. That's the reason they're wrong. Now, you'll ask again, that many men on that battleship Arizona? No. No. Complement of a battleship was about maybe 300 to 350 men. The rest, all of those men were not David now. But some of those are personnel. Those are, as I told you before, the 183 killed over the army was out here in the field, that barracks building. Majority of them were Navy, of course. But that's the reason they're on Arizona. Now, since through those years and so forth, 2 years ago, David decided we better take a look at the hull of the Arizona, see what kind of condition it's in. He said, "Now I was there." The officer came back, reported. Within 10 years' time, the hull of Arizona will be a pile of rust. So now, the Pentagon has got to decide what to do. There was 1104 men still aboard. Either to build a cemetery on Wahoo or bring them back to the States. One or the other.
But there's 1,104, 1,104.
Those are the 4 men still aboard. If you went to Arizona, the Soviet, there was a big memorial built over it. Well, if you could look down, you'll see that memorial. You won't see them, no, but you'll see the memorial ship.
And she still weeps diesel fuel to this day, doesn't
They're
she?
still leaking fuel out of it.
Yeah.
They say about a time a day. I thought this time it would all be gone.
Anyone else? Who? Oh, hey Cameron, sorry. Yes, sir.
Did any of your close friends die in the attack?
Did any of your close friends, did you lose any good friends during the attack?
No, I did not have any close friends. I do have 3 or 4 people that were connected with the last ship that I was on. One of them is 93. He lives in Western Pennsylvania. Calls me 2 or 3 times a week, just to talk. There was another man in El Paso, Texas, that I've talked to. Another man outside of Denver, Colorado. Also, 2 men in South Carolina. But of course, they were easy when it comes, but I knew that was about the extent of it. The man in Pennsylvania was my first-class man in the torpedo division. We did come out close, him and I.
Anyone else? Miss Welch, that's our 100-year-old, Chief Wilson.
Congratulations, lady.
He hasn't flirted with her yet.
Well, I'm sorry, I did not hear all of the story, but I was in Portland, Oregon, the night of this horrible accident. And we had just returned from church. We sat around, were ready to eat our lunch, and our president, Dr. Gray, got up and said, "I have an announcement. We are in war with Japan." I'll never forget that, because that the little lights that were shown at night. The cars could only have very dim lights, and the horns, the sirens were eerie. But God protected our people, and He brought us through that. And I was able to come home. My parents at that time couldn't understand. I guess I couldn't either. I was still staying there. But I was not meant to come home, to come back to Michigan then. And I'm so glad for the God who watches over all of us. He loves us all. And as we go on, remember the important thing is that we have our lives in touch with God.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Ms. Welch. We got time for one more, maybe two. One more. Anyone? Yes.
When's the last time you visited Pearl Harbor?
When was the last time you've been to Pearl Harbor?
1945. I had the chance to go back, but then I was told, this was 50 years later, of course, that it won't be the same, it won't look the same, which I realized that. So I drew that. I didn't have it, and really I didn't have a desire to go back, to tell you the truth about it.
Anyone else? Miss Welch.
I would like to add, I'm wearing a string of pearls that my mother's two brothers went down in Gatsby, the Gatsby Garden, and brought these up, sent to my mother at her 8th grade graduation, and now I'm able to wear them.
Well, we're glad you're here today, Miss Welch. Amen. Anyone else have questions for Chief Wilson?
Got one.
Yes, sir.
Chief, what was daily life like on the destroyer? What was your daily routine?
What was your daily life like on the destroyer? Now you gotta tell the stuff that you can tell in church.
It will depend on what rate you had. The lower the rate, the more work you had to do. And you advance on up the scale. You probably do nothing. You was just there, taking up space.
So what time was reveille and chow and your normal?
Well, reveille, was the ship's concerned, about 6 o'clock in the morning. We were supposed to be a child. No residents 7 of the morning. Give you an hour to get the child. You were allowed that 1 hour to eat and to get information. 8 o'clock in the morning. Because and to be checked, see if you're still alive and still there. And to be told. In other words, all the men had to be accounted for every morning, that's right. You were assembled in quarters for your division, wherever you were, to find out if anybody was missing. Now, a lot of those procedures that were used in peacetime, so to speak, well, done away with in wartime because it just wasn't convenient. There's too many things going on. You had a certain number of men on gun duty, day and night, never stopped. Of course, I'm quoting you now from a destroyer's viewpoint. My viewpoint And maybe a man served on a battleship or aircraft carrier would probably be entirely different. They allow men on destroyers to wear dungarees, what you call blue jeans. Bigger ships, you stayed in uniform all the time. You worked in uniform, but you had work to do. And there are certain classes of people, so far as the ship is concerned, as I said, different divisions. The deck division took care of the appearance of the ship. While brushing rust spots, they're repainted. They were busy all the time. That's salt water and salt air. They were told on the ship. That's the reason they had to go to the Navy Yard and dry dock every 2 years. The bottom of the ship had to be scraped, the sides scraped, red-leaded. That's the paint that they call, they put on the bottom of the ship. Repainted the gray color like they always were. And those things it just took a toll. It took me in to do it, and that was their job to do it. And some of the things, it wasn't just the deck force that do it. Other divisions had to get in with them to help. Depending on what kind of job it might be, doing their camouflage duty. Each division was given to camouflage a ship, and it being underway was done at sea during the war. The war started. Order from the Navy Department came to camouflage that ship. Some of them were camouflaged, some weren't. When the first ship I was on was camouflaged, had orders to be camouflaged. The stacks of the ship you call a smokestack, you call stacks. It was a ship rolling, pitching in the open sea. You had a paint bucket. You were sitting on what we call a Jacob's ladder beside the stack, 30 feet in the air. The ship would roll and pitch. We made a cut fly. And then had more pay on the day the ship got.
Right, yeah.
You know, wind would be blowing, ship rolling and pitch. As you come out of the stack, you slide them in the earth. That's the way you had to do it. It wasn't easy. I'll just give you an illustration. The high things free, of course. In peacetime is all quite different. You're not at sea, usually that work takes place when you're in port. Every Saturday, you can get yourself all primed up for inspection. Ship material inspection, personnel inspection. Every Saturday in peacetime. Wartime, You understand a bunch of men out on the deck for the Japanese to shoot at? We're not gonna do that. I don't ever remember having a person inspection during the whole war. Of course, there had to be a cabin for now. You've done quarters on some boys, depending on how the ocean was. You may stand in quarters for maybe 15 minutes, and after that, but I dismissed. The reason for that, you see, to me, was still there. It jumped over the side.
Right.
I hadn't lost it. That was the reason for it. You asked me about a daily schedule, I got a lot of, schedule even again. If you had a job to do, you did your job. If you didn't have anything to do, it was just out of the time away, so to speak, especially at sea. But it does, I'll tell you one thing, it does get monotonous, don't you? You look at the ocean, nothing else to see, except that water for 3 months at a time. Except it could, get next to it. As far as the female attraction. Until we saw a hostile ship, which was very seldom. Never saw a woman at all, a female. At that time, there was women on the ships, like it is now. First, I remember down in the Solomon Islands. That's when the ship came in. Relief, I believe was the name of the ship. There was women standing on the rail of the ship, as we went by. Oh, that's the first woman they've seen in years and months. Yeah. That's just the way it was.
So Chief, do you still have your Cracker Jack dress blues?
No, sir. They're gone. Even the Chief's uniform's gone.
Oh, no.
Not any of it. Because there was a Jim dress blues you told about in this today. Mars would have eaten them up long. No, I don't have any of that thing at all. The only thing I do have, I still have, is campaign members for the campaigns that I was in, really. You know, and that's the extent of it, really.
Anybody else? Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much. Emily?
I was just gonna ask about this family. You said you got married during the war, and then you got out. Do you have children?
They want to know about your family. You got married and children and
I
grandchildren.
have 2 daughters, no grandchildren. I have 1 daughter that's in Virginia, of course. She has, this daughter is fortunate, she has a PhD. Young daughter, and of course, the older daughter never married, she's still single. The youngest daughter's in Goldsboro, she retired from unmarried, very soon. She lives in Goldsboro. Of course, my wife, she passed away 13 years ago. We were married 63 years.
Anybody else? Miss Cameron.
What was his favorite thing to do when he wasn't doing anything?
What was your favorite pastime when you were not on duty? Now, this is stuff you can say in church.
You know, to tell you the truth about it, there was no, it seemed just an idleness, to tell you the truth about it, because there had nothing to do. In a small ship like that, what was it to do, of course? We had almost a destroyer carried by 200 men. Really. Some of them you might get close to, and then with the majority of them. There was men on that ship that I remember you today. You were associated with them. If not in your division, the same thing with a carrier. Aircraft carrier. Now it carries 4,500 men on it. More people than a small town has. And except the ones that they're associated with or dealing with every day, they don't even know. They might know the division officer who he is, whenever they see him, or division chief petty officer. That's just the way it is. You don't have contact with them, you don't have contact with them. every so often, you just don't know. That's right.
All right, I think it's a good time to wrap it up unless we have anybody else. One more. Anyone? Yes, sir.
I don't have a question, but I'd like to say.
Okay. All right, well, okay.
All of you people are looking at what everyone calls the greatest generation. You're looking at every one of them right here.
Amen.
They had a job to do, they did it, they didn't grumble and bellyache, they didn't get their little feelings hurt, they didn't get offended. They had a job to do. And when I see people in the media today on the news, and all of you've seen, burning the U.S. flag, taking a knee, all this kind of stuff, there's a knee I'd like to give them, but I can't feed the church. But I want to thank Chief Wilson for coming today. I attend church with him. We're newly attending church there. But many of us have many people in our families that have served in the military in all branches. But just remember this, the greatest generation is a reason for that. Not once have you heard this man complain. He's almost 100 years old, and look, he's alive, and he's tough. He's probably tougher than most of us in this room. And I thank God for him and for this great generation, and I thank God for the American servicemen.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much. They're clapping for you, Chief.
There's one thing I'm failed to tell you about. Did belong to that Pearl Survival Association. When it was formed in 1958, there was 14,000 members in the United States. 2 years ago, it disbanded due to the lack of membership. They said it was less than 2,000 left. So it disbanded because no members at all, I just thought I'd mention that.
Well, Chief, it's just, Shannon, put up the social media addresses, please. If you're a guest and you'd like a video, a DVD of this, write your address down for me. And we're also going to post it on YouTube, and I can send you the links. This is where you find us at. If you are a first-time guest, thank you so much for joining us. And Chief, we just honor you as the greatest generation today. Yes, sir?
Carry on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, folks. Appreciate you.
Please take pictures, shake this man's hand. Maybe the only Pearl Harbor survivor you ever meet. They don't make them like this anymore. Your children and grandchildren are honored to be here whether they know it or not. You are too. So he may have to sit down. Don't make him stand up a long time. But take pictures, shake his hand, and tell him how much you appreciate him. And we'll see you all the next appointed time. God bless you.
It's